There's no place like the Qube. Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn, and this is Queer News, your favorite weekly news pod where race and sexuality meet politics, culture, and entertainment. This past week has been second to none. I got inducted into the Chicago LGBTQ Hall of Fame, which is literally one of the biggest honors of my life. Some of my mentors, people I admire, are in the hall, and so for my work to now be alongside their work, it's still hard to process, okay? Grateful. I'm so grateful. We also, this past week, launched our latest Qube original podcast, Second Sunday, in partnership with PRX in New York City. That event was so magical. This podcast is so magical. This podcast is so needed. Second Sunday is about Black queer folks finding, keeping, and sometimes losing faith. The stories that are being told on this podcast, I promise you, will impact your spirit, period. I don't care if you're not Black. I don't care if you're not queer. Stories, humanity, it is touched on in this podcast in such a beautiful narrative storytelling way. I just know you gonna love it. I just know it. I just know you will. So I'm so excited about that. Then I flew back home from New York City to celebrate with my Chicago community at our 10th annual Purple Tie Affair concert and silent auction. It has been a week, okay? We partied on Saturday, okay? And if you want to hear more about it, I'm going to give all the details to the QCrew, all right? So you got to go join the QCrew if you want all the intimate details. And if you don't know, the QCrew is our queer news community. Their reoccurring monthly help supplements the cost of this pod, hosting, editing, marketing, PR, travel, child, everything. If you believe in the work we do, if you believe LGBTQ stories need to be amplified, if you love and respect how I report on the news and tell our stories, join the QCrew. I also want to welcome Chris. Chris, welcome to the QCrew. Chris is our newest member, okay? So come on and join us. A link is in the show notes. Now, for the news. Yesterday was International Lesbian Day, and I want all my lesbian sisters to know I see y'all. I know you don't always feel seen, but I see you, and please know that I love y'all too, okay? Pope Francis says blessing same-gender loving people should be considered by the Catholic Church. Laphonza Butler makes history as the first Black lesbian to serve in the U.S. Senate. Jeopardy champ Amy Schneider writes a memoir. And NBA star Reggie Bullock honors his trans sister with his foundation, RemarkaBULL. Now, I'll be back right after this break with the news. Let's go.
I'm Darren.
And I'm Esther.
And this is Second Sunday, a podcast about Black queer folk finding, keeping, and sometimes losing faith.
This season's full of candid conversations. We're talking to theologians, artists, activists, and community members living at the intersections of faith, spirituality, and identity.
The Saints ain't ready for this,
but we're still going to talk about it.
Second Sunday starts October 4th. Find it wherever you get podcasts.
Second Sunday is a Qube original podcast and is part of the PRX Big Questions project.
What has 144 players, 12 teams, and one league that you should tap into? If you guessed the WNBA, you already know. If you didn't, we'll get you up to speed real quick. My name is Money, and this is Rebound Revolution, bringing you the revolutionary on and off the court happenings in the W. Join me and a special guest each week as we watch them work. Listen to Rebound Revolution wherever you get your podcasts.
You are now tuned in to higher frequencies. We do this frequently. Turn your radio station to E3 for that decency. Listen to great music and the latest movement. Safe listening for anyone that's tuned in. Who you waking up to? Anna DeShawn, QCrew and friends. It's that real talk. Online radio with the spins. You caught up in traffic, frustrated. Just check in with E3 to shift your vibrations and get elevated. That's queer radio done right. Choose to
start the pod today with news coming out of the Vatican. Pope Francis has done it again when it comes to the LGBTQ community and the Catholic Church. And I say again because he's been vocal about the laws that criminalize being queer around the world. Okay, he's called them unjust. And you may remember back in August when Pope Francis proclaimed in front of hundreds of thousands of people that the Catholic Church is for todos, meaning everyone. And someone asked him if todos also included LGBTQ folks. And he said that the Catholic Church has their laws, but the church was still a place for everyone. Chile, now you know the conservative Catholics have not been happy about any of this. So a group of them actually sent Pope Francis some questions and asked that he respond on his position. He responded. They didn't like his answers, so they wrote him again, asking for yes or no responses. And he decided not to respond. Now, because of this, they decided to publish his private response just 2 days before the start of a very important 3-week meeting at the Vatican with all, can I say it again, all of the major Catholic leaders around the world. They expect 450 cardinals, bishops, clergy, religious, and lay people to descend upon Rome and discuss the future of the Catholic Church. Things on the docket are ending clergy abuse, the Women's Ordination Conference, and of course, LGBTQ inclusion. So let me tell you what he said. According to Vatican News, he said that the Catholic Church is clear that marriage is between a man and a woman. That's what he said, okay? Then he went on to speak about the importance of pastoral charity. Pastoral charity. He said, the defense of objective truth is not the only expression of this charity. He also includes kindness, patience, understanding, tenderness, and encouragement. Therefore, we cannot be judges who only deny, reject, and exclude. He added that pastoral prudence must adequately discern whether there are forms of blessing requested by one or more persons that do not convey a mistaken concept of marriage. Now, that was a whole lot of words. It took me a minute and some more reading to really get to the bottom of it. But let me tell you, basically, the Pope is saying that the church should consider blessing same-gender loving people and their unions. Now, this is far from equality, okay? This is far from equality, but let us all be very clear. It is the most progressive theology a Pope has ever provided when it comes to LGBTQ folks. The New Ways Ministry, an organization founded to bridge LGBTQ Catholics with their church, said the allowance for pastoral ministers to bless same-gender couples implies that the church does indeed recognize that holy love can exist between same-gender couples, and the love of these couples mirrors the love of God. Well, I will say this is progress. This is progress. If this is a topic that really interests you, I'd recommend you follow the New Ways Ministry, okay? As these next 3 weeks should be very interesting for our queer Catholics. In politics, you know we still got to talk about this historic moment of Laphonza Butler being appointed to Dianne Feinstein's seat in the Senate. This news broke just after we published the podcast last week. So I did a TikTok about it, but I was like, we still got to talk about it on the podcast because this is a moment. So let me tell y'all a little bit about Laphonza Butler. She's from Magnolia, Mississippi. She went to undergrad at Jackson State University, which is one of the most popular HBCUs in the country. We are, all right. She's been a labor organizer for most of her life and done most of her work in California. Now, I know she's been living in Maryland and people are not happy about that, but that's only because she's been working for Emily's List. Emily's List elects Democratic women who are pro-choice. That is literally her whole job. So before Emily's List, like I said, she was a labor organizer and president of the local 2015 of the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, all right, where she lobbied for several policies, including raising California's minimum wage to $15. She was also an advisor to VP Kamala Harris's campaign. She was a senior advisor to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign in 2016. So let me just say this, okay? She has been around. And she has a beautiful family composed of her wife and daughter. Now, she is only the third Black woman ever in the history of the United States to actually hold seat in the Senate. This is behind Carol Moseley Braun of Illinois and VP Kamala Harris of California. Like, that's it. That's it, y'all. And she is the first Black lesbian woman to ever serve in the Senate. And the decision is up to her if she actually wants to run for this seat. She told the LA Times, "I can't really be the leader of Emily's List and encourage other women to do something courageous for their communities and for their country, and I not be willing to do the same." I love that because this is courageous. She's upending her whole life to fill this seat. Now, if she wants to keep it, she doesn't have long to make the decision, as the race for Senate is well underway, but we'll see what she decides to do. Until then, we can actually thank Gavin Newsom for appointing Laphonza Butler to this seat and for keeping his campaign promises to put a Black woman in that seat. We can do that. Now, it's a good time for us to take a quick break. And when we get back, I got some culture and entertainment news for you, okay? So stay close. If you're hearing this, it means we didn't sell this ad space. If you're hearing this, it means running ads on our podcast actually can work. You see what I did there? You see this real life example? You got an event, do you have an organization? Do you got something you need to get the word out about? We got rates starting as low as $100. Check the link in our show notes for more information. Hey, I'm Anna.
And I'm Adele.
And this is the Head Nod, Season 1, Black Life at a PWI.
It's an unfiltered take on Black life in predominantly white spaces.
In the process, we learned some things, especially that music, Chile.
Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Welcome back to the show, family. This week in culture and entertainment news, Jeopardy star Amy Schneider has dropped her memoir in the form of a question. If you've been listening to the pod for a while, you remember my coverage of her historic run on the game show. She ended her 40-day run on the show becoming the winningest woman ever to compete on Jeopardy. She racked in over $1 million while being a proud trans woman. In her memoir, it said that she speaks very little actually about the Jeopardy stint and far more about her life growing up in a religious family, her past polyamorous marriage, transitioning, tarot reading, while being atheist, and so much more. What I really love is the subtitle of the book that reads, "The Joys and Rewards of a Curious Life." We don't talk about curiosity enough, do we? And just how important it is to learning. When we stop being curious about life, the people around us, how things work, and the things we do not see, how do we discover what has yet to be revealed? Well, the book is out, so go ahead and go cop it because I know it's probably gonna be real good. I'm a fan, okay? In more culture and entertainment news, I want to talk about Reggie Bullock. Reggie Bullock is an NBA star, and he recently appeared on Cam Newton's podcast, Funky Friday. On the podcast, he actually shares that he had a trans sister who was actually murdered by way of a hate crime in Baltimore, Maryland in 2014. He talks openly about how he didn't want his sister to show up at his games because he was so embarrassed and ashamed of who she was, and how he really didn't understand until after she was murdered. So often, our families don't have compassion or understanding until after we're gone. But to hear him speak about how far he's come in understanding and now advocating on behalf of the LGBTQ community, that's the type of growth we're talking about. That is the growth we want to see. He actually started a foundation called RemarkaBULL to remember not only his trans sister who was murdered, MIa Henderson, but also his other sister who was also murdered in 2019. He's experienced a lot of tragedy in his life, and he talked about it on this podcast. His foundation, RemarkaBULL, has a vision for a world with inclusive communities where all people have access to safe and welcoming environments to live, work, and play in. He says, I want to be the athlete who makes plays in the community, the one who wins at helping society and improving this world and how we treat others. I want to be part of the Ally Hall of Fame. I plan to change the game. Come on, Reggie, I am here for this. I'm here for this. Please, I included a link in the show notes to his foundation. Go check it out and support if you can, okay? It's Hispanic Heritage Month, and I've been celebrating someone every week. This week, I want to celebrate Pedra Zamora. Do y'all remember Pedro? I remember growing up and watching Pedro on MTV's Real World. I remember his activism. But it wasn't until I was much older when I could really fully understand the courage it took for him to tell his story so out loud. This was pre-Ellen, okay? So thank you, HRC, for honoring him with this write-up. They shared, Pedro was a Cuban-American activist and one of the very first openly gay men living with AIDS to appear on television when he starred in MTV's The Real World San Francisco in 1993. Zamora helped humanize what living with HIV/AIDS looked like. As an HIV and AIDS educator, Zamora helped raise awareness about the disease at a time where very few people understood the disease and its impact on the LGBTQ+ community. In 93, Zamora testified before Congress, arguing for more accessible HIV/AIDS literature. When the show concluded, he continued to push for federal HIV prevention and care programs. His advocacy work was later acknowledged by then-President Bill Clinton. I'll add this, that his work has been acknowledged by so many in the community, outside of the community, all over the world, and his life's work continues to have a ripple effect today. So thank you, Pedro, for your courage. Thank you. You will not be forgotten. All right, now it's that time for Anna's word. The word today is coming from Shonda Rhimes. She wrote a book called The Year of Yes. I love this book. I don't read very often, but I will listen to books, okay? And this book was narrated by Shonda, and she brought her full self to it. I enjoyed it so much. So let me share the word. She says, they tell you, follow your dreams, listen to your spirit, change the world, make your mark, find your inner voice and make it sing, embrace failure, dream and dream big. As a matter of fact, dream and don't stop dreaming until your dream comes true. I think it's crap. I think a lot of people dream. And while they are busy dreaming, the really happy people, the really successful people, the really interesting, powerful, engaged people are busy doing. Ooh, so are you busy dreaming? That's cool and everything. I just don't want you to forget about the work of doing. So get to work, okay? Until next week, peace. If you enjoyed what you heard, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is written and produced by me, Anna DeShawn. Podcast editing by Experience J of Just Listen Media. and brought to you by E3 Radio, your #1 queer radio station playing queer music and reporting on queer news in high rotation.